Every year on my birthday, my grandma sends me a card with $5. This year it was $5,000 and a note that said, "Now you know." I'm not a big birthday guy. Never have been, really. I don't hate them or anything. I just don't see the point in celebrating getting older. Maybe it's because my mom always made a huge deal out of it when I was a kid. Balloons, cake, party hats, those little noisemakers that sound like ducks getting strangled. By the time I was 10, I was already over it. By 15, I was actively trying to skip it. By 33, it was just another day. Except for the card from Grandma. That was the one thing that never changed. Every single year, without fail, a small white envelope would arrive the day before or the day of my birthday. Always handwritten. Always in her slanting cursive with the little loop she added to every capital L. Inside, a card from whatever dollar store pack she picked up that year. Sometimes with a puppy on it. Sometimes a rainbow. Once it was a Christmas card with Merry crossed out and Happy Birthday scribbled in its place. And always, without fail, $5 in cash. Just a little something, she'd write. "Love you always. Grandma G." I didn't think too hard about it. It was tradition, like carving pumpkins or watching the same rerun of a Charlie Brown Christmas. It just was. Until this year. This year, the envelope was thicker. I noticed it immediately when I pulled it from the mailbox. Same handwriting, same return address. But it was heavier, like she'd stuff a napkin or a bundle of receipts in there by mistake. I stood in the driveway, staring at it for a solid minute before I even went inside. The breeze was cold for March. My fingertips started to go numb. Still, I just held it, turning it over in my hand. I wasn't expecting anything weird. Grandma was getting older. She'd been a little forgetful lately. Maybe she accidentally sent me the grocery money. Maybe she put a recipe in there, or some photo she thought I want to see. I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys in the bowl by the door, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened the envelope. No recipe. No photo. Just a card with a cartoon cat wearing a party hat and holding a cupcake. Inside, 5 crisp $1,000 bills. And a note, folded once and tucked behind the cash. "Now you know. I'm sorry no one told you sooner. Gee." That was it. No explanation. No instructions. No clue. I stared at the bills like they were counterfeit. Ran my thumb over them. Smelled them. Yes, I smelled them. They smelled like money. They were real. As real as the note, as the handwriting I'd recognize anywhere, and as the goosebumps crawling up the back of my neck. Now you know what? I pulled out my phone and texted her right away. Me. "Hey, Grandma. Got your card. Is everything okay?" No response. Not that unusual. She often forgot where she put her phone. Sometimes she forgot to charge it for days. But something felt different this time. A weird pressure in my chest. Like the kind you get when you know something big is coming, but you can't see it yet. Like thunder behind a mountain. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I sat there for hours with the money on the table in front of me. I didn't touch it again. Didn't move it. I just kept rereading the note over and over again. Now you know. Know what? I didn't sleep well that night. Dreamed of things that didn't make sense. My mom crying in the kitchen, a man I didn't recognize sitting on our porch, a locked door I couldn't open. I woke up at 3:47 a.m. in a cold sweat and went to my closet. I pulled down a box of old letters and cards I'd saved over the years, including every birthday card Grandma G had ever sent me. It was all there. 1 card per year. Always the same signature. Always the $5 bill. Except now I was looking at them differently. Looking for clues. Something I hadn't seen. And then I saw it. On the back of last year's card, barely noticeable in the lower left-hand corner, were 3 tiny dots in blue ink. Like the pen had tapped the paper. On the one before that, a faint smudge of something, lipstick, a fingerprint. I pulled out every card, lined them up chronologically on the table. There was a pattern. Each card had something tiny, easy to miss in the bottom corner. A mark, a scratch, a letter. The oldest one I still had from my 8th birthday had a tiny triangle drawn in pencil. I started writing them down, one by one. Letters, symbols, dots, lines. It didn't form anything coherent. Not yet, but it wasn't random. Not anymore. This wasn't just Grandma being quirky. She'd been leaving me a code. For years. And now, apparently, it was time for me to figure out what it meant. It took me 3 days to decipher the basic pattern. Not because it was particularly complex. It wasn't exactly a zodiac-level cipher, but because I was juggling work, sleep deprivation, and the creeping dread that something about my life wasn't what I thought it was. It's not like you wake up one day and think, hey, maybe my grandma's been secretly trying to tell me a life-altering truth using micro-symbols and birthday cards. That's not a normal train of thought, but that's where I was. I scanned each card into my laptop, zoomed in on every mark, scratch, smudge, and slowly, like a Polaroid developing, something began to emerge. Not a message, not words exactly, but a structure. The symbols weren't random, they repeated. Some of them matched across years. A dot, a triangle, a diagonal slash. Some formed clusters, and in a few of the older cards, they appeared to align in what I realized were map coordinates. That was when I started to lose sleep for real. Because once you realize your grandmother might be embedding coordinates in your childhood birthday cards, you stop asking whether something is crazy and start asking why. The coordinates led to 3 different spots, all within the same area back home. The small Pennsylvania town where I grew up, where my mom still lived, and where Grandma G had lived since before I was born. I plugged them into Google Maps. One was the town library, one was an old playground, and the third was our backyard. The backyard where I broke my arm when I was 7. The same one where I buried my hamster, Jerry. The place I'd spend entire summers pretending I was an explorer or a detective or whatever my hyper-imaginative little brain latched onto that day. It couldn't be coincidence. I called in sick to work on Friday, packed an overnight bag, and drove home. The town looked the same as it always had, which is to say a little older, a little smaller than I remembered. The diner still had that hand-painted sign with the missing apostrophe. The drugstore still had the same pharmacist who'd been there since the Clinton administration. And the house, our house, looked like it had been frozen in amber. My mama kept it up, but barely. The paint needed redoing. The porch creaked more than I remembered. She opened the door before I knocked. "Tommy," she said, blinking like I was a ghost. "Hey, Mom, what are you doing here?" I hadn't prepared a lie, so I gave her half the truth. Got Grandma's card. It was different this year. Her mouth tightened. Just a flicker. But I saw it. She stepped aside. "Come in." The kitchen smelled like instant coffee and dust. Mom offered me tea. I declined. She didn't press. We sat across from each other at the old laminate table that had probably been here since the 80s. "She sent you money?" she asked eventually. $5,000, I said, in a note. "Now you know." She didn't flinch, but her eyes flicked to the window, out toward the backyard. "She's not well," Mom said finally. "She's been saying things." "Like what?" "She's getting confused. She told your uncle last week that she saw my father. My father died in '93. "That's not what this is," I said. Mom looked at me, long and level. "Then what is it, Tommy?" "I think she's been leaving me clues." Now she laughed, bitter and fast. "Clues? She's 84. She can barely write her grocery list. Except she has been writing. In every card. Symbols. Coordinates. Coordinates to what?" I paused. "Our backyard." Silence. Then, "You need to leave that alone." That was the moment I knew I was right. That night, I didn't sleep much. I waited until around 3 a.m., the same time I used to sneak down for cereal when I was a kid, and crept outside with a flashlight. The grass was wet, the air cold enough to sting. The wind chimes on the neighbor's porch clinked softly like someone whispering in a language I almost understood. I went to the spot beneath the maple tree, the exact place the GPS dot landed. I didn't bring a shovel, just my hands. The earth gave easier than I expected, maybe because it had been dug before. 6 inches down, my fingers hit something hard. A tin box, rusted, about the size of a paperback. I pulled it out, opened it. Inside, a folded photo, a note, a gold baby bracelet with the initials AL. I stared at the bracelet. Those were my initials. I opened the photo. It was old, faded. A woman holding a newborn, smiling at the camera. The baby had a tuft of dark hair. The woman looked like my mother, but not quite. And the note, "Tommy, if you found this, you're ready. Ask your mother about Anna." That was it. No signature, no date, just that name, Anna. And suddenly I remembered something. A name I'd heard once in a whisper years ago. A name Mom had snapped at Grandma for bringing up. A name I thought belonged to a neighbor or a friend from church or a dream I forgot. But now it felt real. Solid. Like a door I was about to walk through. And there'd be no going back. I didn't confront Mom right away. I couldn't. Not after digging up a rusted tin box from our backyard at 3 a.m. Not with that name. Anna, echoing through my brain like a ghost whispering through an open window. Instead, I went back inside, washed the dirt off my hands in the kitchen sink, and sat at the table in the dark, staring at that bracelet with the initials AL glinting faintly under the weak ceiling light. I didn't sleep. I didn't even try. By morning, I decided I needed more than just a name. I needed context. Something real. Something solid that couldn't be waved off as a trick of an old woman's fading memory. So instead of talking to Mom, I went to the library. It was one of the GPS points, after all. The town library hadn't changed since I was a kid. Same creaky carpet, same oil painting of the founder above the front desk, same smell of old paper and lemon-scented cleaner. The woman behind the desk didn't recognize me, which helped. I used my phone to scan the microfilm archive index and looked up every reference to the name Anna L. from the mid-'80s through the early '90s. At first, nothing. Then I found it. A birth announcement from 1987. Anna Louise Grayson, born March 4th, to Margaret Grayson, no father listed. My stomach dropped. Grayson. Grandma G's last name. Anna wasn't some neighbor. She wasn't a friend or an imaginary playmate. She was family, and she was born a year before me. I sat there, gripping the edge of the desk, breath stuck in my throat. I kept scrolling. In the obituaries, 1 year later, there was a notice. Anna Louise Grayson, age 1, passed away suddenly. No service. Family requests privacy. But that wasn't the end, because the next card, the one for my 5th birthday, had a tiny etched into the corner. One I hadn't noticed until now. It was like she'd been breadcrumbing this from the very start. I copied everything, took photos with my phone. Then I left. I didn't go back home right away. I drove to the park instead, the one that was the second location from the coordinates. I parked, got out, walked to the swings I used to play on. My breath fogged in front of me. The air was sharp, clean. I sat down on a bench and stared at the worn paint on the monkey bars. Anna had been real. But what had happened to her? I went home that evening, and Mom was in the living room folding laundry. The TV was on, volume low, showing some home renovation show. She looked up and gave me a tight smile. You were gone all day. Went to the library, I said. Needed some air. She nodded slowly. You find what you were looking for? Yeah, I said. I think I did. She stopped folding. I know about Anna. The silence that followed was immediate. Heavy. Like the house itself was holding its breath. Mom sat down on the arm of the couch. The pile of clothes forgotten. Her hand shook slightly in her lap. I always knew it would come out eventually, she said quietly. You never mentioned her. I couldn't. Why? Because I wasn't allowed to. She looked at me then, eyes glassy but fierce. Anna was my sister. Everything tilted, like the floor had shifted an inch to the left. What? She wasn't my daughter. She was Grandma's. My little sister, born when I was 17. But the birth announcement was rewritten. Grandma didn't want the town talking, so she listed me as the mother. Easier to hide. She said it would be safer that way. Safer for who? She swallowed. For Anna. That was the first time she cried. Just a single tear. But it cracked something wide open. She wasn't well, Mom whispered. She had seizures. Spent more time in the hospital than out. It scared Grandma. It scared all of us. But then, she got better. And then, one day, she was just gone. What do you mean, gone? I mean, she wasn't in the house anymore. I came home from school, and her crib was empty. Grandma said she died in the night, that she handled everything, that there wouldn't be a funeral. And you believed her? I was 17, she snapped, then took a shaky breath. I didn't know what to believe. But things didn't add up. I asked questions. She shut them down. She said it was over, that we had to move forward. Did anyone else know? Uncle Mark suspected, but he was overseas back then. By the time he came back, it was just a closed chapter. And you never told me. What was I supposed to say, Tommy? Oh, by the way, you had an aunt who died before you were born, but maybe didn't actually die? Would you have believed me? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. That night, I went through the rest of the cards again. Now they felt heavier, less like gifts, more like warnings, or a quiet, desperate trail of memory. I stayed up until sunrise, trying to piece together the symbols, trying to figure out what Grandma had wanted me to see next. And just before dawn, I noticed something in the lower flap of one of the envelopes I'd never opened fully, a thin strip of old paper tucked into the seam. I pulled it out with tweezers. It was a name and an address in Virginia, and below that, a post-it stuck to the back with a scrawl I now recognize from 1,000 birthday cards. If you're reading this, you're ready to meet her. Her, Anna. I waited exactly one day before I packed a bag. Not because I needed time to think. The decision had already carved itself into my chest the second I read those words. If you're reading this, you're ready to meet her. No, I waited because I needed to be sure. I needed to triple-check the handwriting, the address, the date on the envelope, the context of everything Grandma had left behind. I needed to know I wasn't about to chase a ghost or walk blindly into someone else's pain. I told Mom I was going on a short trip. I didn't tell her where. She didn't ask, just nodded in that tired way she did when she knew better than to fight something. I could tell she was scared of what I'd find, of what it would mean for me and for her. It took me 6 hours to get to the address in Virginia. The GPS took me off the main highway and into winding roads flanked by tall oaks and decaying fences. The air changed, heavier, damper, fragrant with some blooming vine I couldn't name. There was something deeply unsettling about the quiet. No traffic, no billboards, just a rhythmic crunch of tires on gravel. The house sat behind a white gate with chip paint. A ranch-style place, modest but neat. The kind of house where wind chimes hang on porches and someone always has a pie cooling on the windowsill, if you believe in Norman Rockwell paintings. I parked across the road, sat there for 10 minutes. What was I going to say? Hi, I think you might be the aunt everyone said died 30 years ago. But what else was I going to do? Drive away? No chance. I crossed the road, stepped up onto the porch, and knocked. The door opened a crack almost immediately. A woman's face appeared, thin, angular, mid-40s maybe, with dark eyes that blinked quickly like she was calculating who I was before I even spoke. Yes, she said. Hi, my name's Tom. I hesitated. I think you might know my grandmother, Margaret Grayson. Her entire body froze. Who sent you? I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope with the address, the one Grandma had hidden in the card. She stared at it. Her breath hitched. Then, slowly, she opened the door all the way. Come in. Her name was Elise. She didn't confirm anything outright at first. We sat in a small, tidy living room decorated with knickknacks and shelves of books sorted by spine color. A lemon-scented candle burned on the table between us. The tension was thick, like we were on opposite sides of an invisible wall, trying to guess if we were enemy or kin. I haven't heard that name in a long time, she said finally. I handed her the note. She held it gently. She wrote this. I nodded. And I'm her grandson. My mom is Diane. She exhaled sharply. Your mother. You know her? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she asked, do you know who I am? I shook my head. I think I do, but I'm hoping you'll tell me. She studied me, then said, I was raised by a family not far from here. I always knew I'd been adopted. My records were sealed, but when I turned 25, I petitioned for access. They denied it. I tried again 5 years later. Same result. I stopped trying after that. And you never knew who your birth family was? No, not even a hint. Just a bracelet with the initials EL. I froze. I reached into my coat pocket, slowly pulled out the bracelet I'd found in the tin box. Her eyes widened. She reached across the coffee table and took it from me like it was made of glass. This is it, she whispered. I lost this when I was 10. My adoptive mom thought it slipped down the drain. We sat in silence. Outside, the wind rustled through the trees like a whisper. I said, you're my aunt. She looked at me, eyes wide. I think you're Anna. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then she laughed. Not loudly, but sharply like someone who's just been told the punchline of a cruel joke. No, she said. My name's Elise. But you were Anna. She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. Someone told me you died, I said. She nodded slowly. They told me I was abandoned. I swallowed. I found the obituary. For Anna Louise Grayson. I've seen it, she said quietly. Online. Years ago. It didn't have a photo. But the name, the date, it felt like a shadow I couldn't shake. Do you remember anything? From before. Flashes. A blue wall. A mobile with stars. Someone singing. And the smell of oranges. My breath caught. Grandma G. Always used orange lotion. Still does. Elise looked down at the bracelet. I thought maybe she was my mother. I used to make up stories about her. That she left me to protect me. That she was a spy. That she died in a plane crash. Anything to make the not knowing hurt less. She's still alive, I said softly. She looked up. Would you want to meet her? Her hands clenched. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ready to open that door. She might not be either, I admitted. But you came, she said. Why? Because the truth matters. Even when it's ugly. Even when it's buried. She nodded slowly. Then maybe I will too. That night, I checked into a nearby motel. I lay on the thin mattress, staring at the ceiling, wondering what Grandma G had hoped would happen. If she ever imagined I'd find Elise, if she even believed it was possible, or if the guilt had just finally grown too heavy for her to carry alone. I texted Mom. Just 2 words. She's alive. No response. But it didn't matter. Because the story was no longer a ghost. She had a name. A life. And now she had me. I didn't hear from Mom for 2 full days. I checked my phone constantly, rereading the message I'd sent. She's alive. That was it. No details, no explanation. I figured if that didn't shake her loose, nothing would. But there was nothing. No missed call. No text. Just silence. Elise, or Anna, though she still didn't say the name out loud, called me the morning after I checked out of the motel. There's something you should see, she said. Can you come by? I went. She met me at the door, still barefoot, mug of tea in hand. There was a tiredness in her eyes that hadn't been there before, but also something else. A quiet steadiness, like she'd made a decision. I didn't sleep much, she said, leading me to the kitchen. I remembered something last night. It's weird, the way memory works. Sometimes it's just color or scent, and sometimes it's like the door swings open without knocking. She handed me a folder. Inside were papers, yellowed, folded over and over, and a photo, one I hadn't seen before. It was Grandma G, younger, maybe in her 40s, holding a baby girl. A name was scrawled on the back in faded ink. Anna Louise. May 1988. I found this in an old trunk my adoptive parents gave me years ago, Elise said. They told me it was part of the file that came from the agency. I always thought it was a mistake, that the woman in the photo must have been a nurse or something. She's not, I said. That's our grandmother. She nodded. I know that now. There was a moment between us, 2 strangers stitched together by a buried name. Did she send you here to find me? Elise asked. No. She sent a note. That was it. Why you? She's been leaving me clues in my birthday cards since I was a kid. Symbols. Coordinates. Hints. I didn't realize it until now, but she wanted me to find something. Or someone. That someone being me. I nodded. And the $5,000. I exhaled. I still don't know. Maybe to fund the trip. Maybe a test. Or maybe it was the weight of the secret finally cracking open. Elise stared out the window. Do you know why she gave me up? She asked. I shook my head. No, but I think she never forgave herself. We sat in silence a while, the sound of wind rustling through tree branches outside. I want to meet her, Elise said finally. But not yet. I want to hear it from her mouth. The truth. She may not tell it. I warned. Even now. Then at least I'll know I tried. When I got home that night, Mom was waiting. She was on my porch, sitting on the steps like she had when I scraped my knee as a kid. She stood when she saw me, eyes red-rimmed. I didn't know what to say, she said. That's why I didn't respond. She remembers you, I said. She remembers the blue wall, the orange lotion. Mom pressed a hand to her mouth. I need you to tell me the truth, I said. All of it. No more protection. No more omissions. She nodded slowly. Okay. We sat inside on opposite ends of the couch. Grandma didn't mean to give her up, Mom said. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. After Anna got sick, the seizures, the hospital stays, Grandma started spiraling. She blamed herself. She thought it was punishment for having a baby so late in life. I think she had postpartum or maybe something deeper. She was scared all the time. She looked up at me. One day, I came home and Anna was gone. Grandma said she'd sent her to live with relatives out of state. Said she needed rest. I believed her. My throat tightened. But that wasn't true. No, Mom said. She sent her to an agency. Quietly. No one knew. I didn't know until years later. And by then, the record was sealed. Why didn't you tell me? She looked down. Because I hated myself for not fighting harder. And because you were the only thing I had left that felt stable. I couldn't lose you too. I thought about Elisa's eyes. Her quiet pain. Her resilience. And all the birthdays, all the cards, all the tiny symbols leading me to this truth. You didn't lose me, I said. But she did. Mom flinched. But she nodded. I want you to meet her, I said. She's not a ghost. Not anymore. And Mom said the last thing I expected. I've been waiting 30 years to say I'm sorry. It happened on a Sunday. The kind of warm, late spring Sunday where the air feels soft and forgiving, and even old wounds seem less sharp. Mom and I drove together, silent for most of the ride, save for the occasional directions she repeated back to the GPS like she needed to anchor herself in something mechanical. We didn't say what we were doing out loud, but we both knew. Elise had agreed to meet. She didn't want to do it at her house. Said it felt too small for something this big. So we chose a park. Neutral ground. The same park Grandma G used to take me to when I was little, back when I thought the world was simple and birthdays came with $5 bills and no deeper meaning. We picked the spot beneath the tall birch tree by the water, where there were always ducks and dragonflies, and nothing ever seemed to change. She was already there when we arrived, standing by the bench, arms crossed, shoulders high. From a distance, she looked younger than she had in her house. Like some part of her had untensed just from deciding not to run. Mom hesitated as we got out of the car. I don't know if she'll want to hear it from me, she said. You'll never know if you don't try. She nodded slowly, and we walked. When we got close, Elise turned. Her face was unreadable, but she didn't walk away. They stood facing each other, feet apart, like two halves of memory unsure how to rejoin. Elise, Mom said, her voice breaking immediately. Elise flinched. That's the name they gave me. My real name. I think you know it. Mom's eyes filled. Anna. She reached for her, but stopped short. Let her hand fall. I don't even know where to start. Elise's voice was steady. Start with the truth. Mom looked down. I wasn't your mother, but I loved you like one. Every day, I held you. I tried to be enough. And then one day, you were just gone. She said you were sick. Said it was best. Said you wouldn't remember anyway. I did, Elise said. I remembered everything I wasn't supposed to. Enough to know it wasn't just a dream. I'm sorry, Mom whispered. I should have fought harder. I should have looked for you. But I was scared. And young. And Grandma. She had a way of making you believe her version was the only one. Elise was quiet. Then she said, You could have told me sooner. I know. You could have told him, she nodded toward me. I didn't want him to carry the guilt I never put down. The three of us stood there, sunlight slanting through the trees. Do you want to know what happened after? Elise asked, voice low. Where I ended up? Yes, Mom said. If you're willing. Elise nodded. It wasn't a bad life. I had good parents. They weren't perfect, but they loved me. They told me I'd been left at an agency. No names. No records. Just a birth bracelet with initials. I spent years trying to understand why I wasn't wanted. Mom choked out. But you were. You always were. They stood silently, and then Elise, Anna, stepped forward and did the one thing none of us were prepared for. She hugged her. Not a long hug. Not a warm, open-armed reunion like in the movies. Just a simple human contact. Like she needed to feel the truth in Mom's heartbeat before deciding what came next. I looked away, not because I felt out of place, but because the moment wasn't mine. It belonged to them. And somehow, I'd only been the thread connecting the past to the present. When they finally pulled apart, Anna looked at me. You kept the cards? She asked. All of them. She smiled just slightly. Then you know more about me than anyone else ever has. We stayed in touch after that. Slowly, carefully, like walking across a frozen lake that might still crack beneath you. Grandma G passed away 2 months later, peacefully in her sleep. I got the call from the nurse at the assisted living facility. She'd had no pain, no confusion, just drifted off and never woke up. She left no will, but I found one last birthday card in her drawer. It wasn't addressed. Inside, a single $5 bill and a note. Thank you for listening, for seeing, for choosing the truth. Happy birthday, sweetheart. I knew you'd find her. Gee, I framed it because some stories don't end. They ripple. Last week, Anna came to my apartment for dinner. Mom came too. We didn't talk about the past much. We talked about movies, about our jobs, about dumb childhood stories. Anna brought a pie. It was peach. She said she'd learned a recipe from a woman named Margaret, who taught it to her foster mom during an outreach program years ago. She wore big glasses and smelled like citrus, Anna said. I think she might have known who I was. I didn't say anything, but I felt it, that ripple again. That tiny miracle of coincidence that's probably not coincidence at all. This year, for my birthday, I didn't get a card in the mail. I got two. One was from Mom. It had a picture of a coffee mug and a pun about turning older. Inside, $5 and a note that said, I'm proud of you. The other was from Anna. Inside, a photo of the two of us sitting on that park bench beneath the birch tree. And a post-it. Now we both know.